Welcome, everybody. My name's Marilee Burnett. I am your astrologer, back with the messages for the week of August 5th, 2024, where we have a somewhat calmer week. We don't have a ton of activity, but we are working on our missions from the new moon in Leo, activation of the Venus yod. So there could still be some interesting things going on this week. It won't be boring. The whole month of August will not be boring, I warn you right now. If you're new to my channel, welcome to my small and mighty team. Please click on the subscribe button. And that way, each time I upload new content, which is every Saturday, you will get a notification. I do tarot card readings with a card pulled for every sun, moon, and rising sign in the zodiac. So you want to check that out as well. You have the link to that at the end of this recording. And of course, go out and register on my website, marileeburnett.com. That way you become a member, and members get free articles, hypnosis sessions, all kinds of great goodies out there. So make sure you become a member. And that way you'll be signed up before I send out the amazing, incredibly intense, shocking, life-changing maybe, full moon in Aquarius. So get ready for that. All right. We're going to break down the week like I do every single week. And I'll just pick on the days where we have the most intense activations. And we'll go through that now on my Astro Gold software here. So with that, let's get started talking about Venus. So Venus is now moved into the sign of Virgo. It is sitting right next to the moon. And you'll notice that Mercury is now retrograde. This is where it will sit at 4 degrees as it gains momentum to turn its corner and start its retrograde for the next 3 weeks. So Venus and Mercury are going to be talking in harmony throughout this week in a conjunction. And on Monday, they're joined also by the moon. Now, a moon in Virgo is emotions that are a lot more controlled. In fact, sometimes you can be a little manipulative and controlling when you have a moon in Virgo, so you have to be careful of that. But it also helps you keep your emotions in control. Now, Venus, as she moves through the sign of Virgo, is a lot more obviously grounded. This is earth sign and earth energy. So you love things that have to do with nature, things that have to do with healing and being of service. And then, of course, Mercury rules Virgo. So this was the energy that makes this retrograde more difficult because Mercury is extremely strong at home. And when it's all the details and all the facts that you have to slow down and take another look at, anytime you try to rush over the next 3 weeks, you will just end up being frustrated. So prepare to just be patient. There's a reason why you have to go back over what you've been doing and what you've been learning over the last 3 weeks. So let the story unfold. Now, on Monday, Venus is still speaking in its inconjunct energy, which it was doing as well during that new moon in Leo last week. That was part of a yod, also speaking in conjunct with Neptune. So things about love, money that were hidden and beneath the surface are being brought to our attention. It could be through a woman, Venus energy, which was in Leo. And today, as this energy is still speaking in conjunct to Pluto, we're still learning more. We're learning it in a different way, though, now because of the fact that Venus moved into the sign of Virgo. So we're still in a bit of that awkward conversation with Pluto, and with the moon joined in, emotionally even we feel a little awkward and uncomfortable. But that's how we get started for the week ahead. So an emotional day on Monday. So let's progress in this week. You'll see on Tuesday, the moon's going to have a difficult conversation with Mars in Gemini. Now, usually I don't spend a lot of time talking about the moon, but it's a pretty light week, so I'm going to call it out when I see these kinds of conversations. Now, a square means we have to change something. We have to let go of control over something with this moon in Virgo squaring to Mars in Gemini. So there's some kind of a disagreement, an emotional confrontation. And the outcome of that creates change, and it creates the change that's needed. It helps you loosen up a bit. And then we've been seeing since last week, if you've been following me, that Mars and the Sun have been marching together for quite some time. And what you'll see more tomorrow is how the Sun and Mars are beginning to separate, but the Sun and Jupiter are getting closer together. So let's take a look at Wednesday. Now, the Sun is our ego. It's our success, right? And when it speaks with Jupiter, which brings growth and expansion, Jupiter makes whatever it touches bigger, right? That's the point of it. There is some information, Gemini, that is shared today. And in your chart, it can bring a personal blessing. So wherever you have these two planets meeting, the Sun in Leo, Jupiter in Gemini, those two houses are having a very positive activation. Conversations, maybe with other people, information that helps you succeed. And of course, the Sun in Leo is at home. It's very strong. Can be information about a leadership role. As a collective, we may learn information about a leader that's important on Wednesday. Now, Jupiter is a benefic planet, but I also know that Jupiter is a teacher, and Jupiter's lessons become very obvious when we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And so in some instances, Jupiter is benefic, but it may not feel like it. So it really depends on where you're at in learning your lessons. So we'll see how this plays out for the collective on Wednesday. So the other thing is, I mentioned on Monday that we would start to see Mercury and Venus become conjunct. So today's the day when they're exactly conjunct. Mercury's finally moving backwards, and it's sitting at 3 degrees along with Venus. So there is something that you need to review about your values, about what you love, who you love, about your money, your financial picture, whatever this means for you. Of course, wherever this is for you is going to give you a clue as to what you need to revisit. Now, keep in mind that when Mercury passed Venus, they weren't conjunct before. So this is the first conjunction that these are having. We're not going to have this hit 3 times like we normally do during a Mercury retrograde, because Venus is going to start moving forward quickly while Mercury's going backwards. This moment is the one you have to pay attention to, and it's the one that matters right now. So pay attention on Wednesday to what you're being shown. See, I am ruled by Mercury, and I cannot think or speak when Mercury goes retrograde. So bear with me as we move through this painful process for the rest of this video. All right. Good news is it's going to be a short video this week because there's not a lot of new energy and activations happening. The ones that are meeting up, like the Sun with Jupiter, they'll move together slowly and continue on with their conversation. Let's take a look at Thursday, where the biggest activation on Thursday is the moon moves into the sign of Libra. And as it does, it is having a conversation with the South Node and the North Node. Now, of course, every month, the moon moves through all of the signs. And so this isn't a new conversation, but this one is going to give you some clues into that new moon solar eclipse that's going to come up in October, which will be a South Node eclipse. So there's definitely something you need to let go of. You may get a bit of a clue as to what that is that you have to let go of. Is it a relationship? Is it something, is it a legal battle? What is it? Wherever this is showing up for you should give you an idea of what this might be about. And remember, new moon solar eclipses, I mean, you can't have the new beginning unless you get rid of the thing that's not part of your fated path. So that is an opportunity for us to tune in and pay attention. If something's being coaxed out of your life, you got to let it go. And it's much better to do the work ahead of time than have to wait and do it during that eclipse period, which is, I think, October 2nd. All right. Then we can move on from that conversation. And here we see a bit of a brief yod. It's been interesting because throughout the summer, there have been so many yod conversations, but it's a quick hit when one of those points and planets is actually the moon, because of course the moon moves very quickly. So you see the moon in Libra at 18 degrees. It is sextile to the sun in Leo. So that's good supportive energy, right? Your inner self, your emotional self, the moon, and your ego self, they're working together, hand in hand. But the yod, the mission, is created by the point, and that point is Saturn retrograde at that 18 degrees of Pisces. So there is something about your personal boundaries that you need to pay attention to, and there's one that needs to be set. So maybe this is a result of understanding what it is you're supposed to be letting go of, right? A relationship where your boundaries are not healthy and your wishes are not being respected. For some of you, that may be what is showing up as a result of this yod. A yod is a mission from God, and it is a quest that you must complete. It's a pretty quick hit, right? Because the moon's going to head off of here quickly. But if you have any planets at 18 degrees in your chart, they are also being activated by this mission. So you'll want to pay attention to what's showing up for you, and so that you understand what it is that you need to release and let go. All right. As we move into Saturday, we will see Venus sits at 7 degrees of Virgo, and the planet is having, again, that in conjunct awkward conversation with the North Node. So again, the North Node in Aries is us realizing what we want, what we need to do and achieve on our own, right? It's about our independence. And Venus in Virgo is, I love being of service. I love serving other people. But there's something about that where you might be being taken advantage of. Something isn't right. And so the awkward combination of these two gives us a chance to look at making a change. And again, making sure that we're choosing what's best for us and not just what's best for everyone around us. The other thing that could make this day a bit of an emotional roller coaster is that moon in Scorpio, which is not strong. The moon doesn't love things that are dark and hidden, and it is having a square conversation with Pluto. Now, Pluto, of course, is retrograde. It's in Aquarius. It is slowly making its way back through Aquarius, and then in the first part of September, it's going to move back into Capricorn. So these moments where Pluto's activated by any of the planets, we really want to pay attention to this Aquarian work, because that won't get looked at again until November. But we'll want to pay attention to it. We'll want to remember. So there's something about your fear, something you're afraid of, that you need to pay attention to on Saturday, because you need to release that and you need to let it go. And then Pluto and Neptune will be speaking together for a very long time. We're talking years, because these move so slowly. But they're supporting one another. So they're continuing in their retrograde to stir things up, to bring things up to the surface so that we can become aware of them, whether it's subconscious or something that physically shows up in your day-to-day life. But it's time to tune in and be aware. The other in conjunct awkward energy that we have going on is going to be the sun in Leo having a conversation with Saturn again in Pisces. Now, these can be two leaders, two political leaders that are having a conflict, or they're coming together and they make strange bedfellows. Like, you wouldn't expect these two to work together. So there's definitely something intriguing and interesting about this combination of leaders. And for you, again, this is that activation still of that yod and those healthy boundaries that you need to be setting. Especially, if the sun is your boss and they're taking advantage of you, you're going to stand up for yourself on this day, and it will shock and surprise your boss. But it needs to happen. All right, so maybe that's what you're afraid of between Pluto and the moon, but you need to do it, and you'll really benefit by doing that work. All right, and then we round out the week with Sunday, and again, nothing extreme going on, but we're starting to see the setup to next week. And so next week, we're going to see a really important event take effect. So when we have Jupiter squaring off with Saturn, these again are two leaders that are in a major conflict with one another. It can be a bit explosive. There can be an attack because of the fact that Mars is part of the conversation as well. So I think on the world stage, we're probably going to see some kind of a retaliation for some of the current events that have been going on. So just be aware of yourself and your surroundings. This is also energy that can cause accidents. So that's just, again, whatever you're doing the following week, just be careful as you travel. Stay aware again of your surroundings and don't take any unnecessary risks. The other energy that I'm fascinated to pay attention to is during the week, we're going to see Mercury activate that 29-degree point where Venus had her yod during that new moon in Leo. So we'll talk more about that next week as well. Maybe now you're starting to realize what it is that you're supposed to be doing and learning, saying. It's going to be interesting as usual. So that's just some of the highlights, where of course we'll break it all down next week. So make sure you watch the tarot cards so that you get a really full picture of what you can be experiencing in the week ahead. And then of course come back and watch me next week as well. If you want to get better prepared yourself, book a session with me. I have some specials out there for new moons and full moon readings, and now is the time to start looking at those big eclipses, especially the September full moon lunar eclipse, because that's going to give you a preview of the fated work and lessons that you have to do beginning in 2025, because we're going to have the lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces, which of course the nodes aren't there yet, but they will be from January of 2025 till the middle of 2026. So it will be really important to pay attention to what it is you need to finish, what closure you need emotionally. That's a full moon lunar eclipse. What blocks do you need to remove? So just some suggestions on ways that you can work with me to get better prepared, especially as I feel like 2024 has been hard work, right? We still have a lot of hard work left, but wow, did the things change and shift in 2025. It's going to be an incredible year. All right, guys, that's it. Quick and easy this week. So hopefully you had time to watch this and share it with a friend. I appreciate you tuning in as always, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody. Be sure and check out your weekly tarot card messages as well. Those, along with this Astrolesson, are going to give you the big picture. Thanks again for tuning in. Talk to you next week.